DW Africa Link.
There is a renewed border dispute between Guinea and its neighbors, Liberia and Sierra Leone. Both countries accuse Guinean troops of crossing into their territory and trying to seize land that isn't theirs. But Conakry insists that recent developments are purely defensive. President Doumbouya says he's protecting Guinean territory, while some officials say the increased military presence is about securing the border, not escalating tensions. ECOWAS has now stepped in to help de-escalate the situation. But the key question is, stabilize the region? That we're exploring next. I'm Lucy Riley, and this is Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
Tensions are rising along Guinea's border with Liberia and Sierra Leone, two countries with long-standing, deeply rooted boundary disputes. Reports first emerged of Guinean soldiers moving into areas that Liberia and Sierra Leone insist are not part of Guinea. Conakry, however, maintains the expanded military presence is aimed at safeguarding its territorial integrity. So what is fueling this renewed friction? To help us unpack this, we're Liberian activist and analyst Martin Colley. Also with us is DW's Evelyn Pade, reporting from Monrovia. Hello to both of you and welcome to Africa Link. Evelyn, let me start with you. What is the situation right now along Liberia's Lofa County border? We're hearing that Guinea has allegedly deployed additional soldiers and armored vehicles to the area. What's going on?
I had a conversation with a local journalist. According to him, there is no tension like chaos. The only thing is that for now, inter-border movement with Liberians leaving to go to Guinea and Guineans coming into Liberia, the way it always used to be is not like that. So there is no movement for now. The Guineans, we understood, have reinforced their security presence across their side of the border. So that is what happening at the moment.
And you've talked about the Guinean side of the border, but how is it being received on the Liberian side?
Some Liberians I have talked to this morning in the streets in different corners are also a bit panicking. Some of them point to the fact that Liberia and Guinea have had, intermarriages, lasting relationship, even long after the Civil War, that the two countries have never had issues of, such dispute. So they are very concerned. Some are calling on the government to make sure that this process of mediation and ensuring the situation is handled. They're asking that it be done in a very peaceful way. One woman said to me, and I quote, that if the Guinean thing will wrong them, let our president just say sorry for the sake of peace. So yeah, these are some of the reactions Liberians have given so far.
Now, to build on that, I want to bring you in, Martin Colley. We've seen ECOWAS deploy a technical assessment mission in response to rising tensions across the Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia borders, including the long-disputed Yenga area. From your perspective, what makes this moment particularly sensitive for the Mana River Basin?
Quite frankly, it is very sensitive because the sub-regional bloc has been through a lot, including multiple coups, civil war, and a lot of citizens, like Evelyn said, are opting for peace because the region has been destabilized multiple times. So it is important for the ECOWAS to step in. This is a very delicate and complex situation that has geopolitical, security, economic, social, and cultural implications. So at the moment, the risk of insecurity seems higher in the region now than any other time in our recent history. This is why it is important to emphasize the urgency for de-escalation, for peace, for solidarity and commonality. Now, let me take you back, Lucy. Before 1907, we had French Guinea and not the Republic of Guinea. So there was an ambition of extending the territory of French Guinea. As a result, there were multiple conflicts pre-1907. Fast forward in 1907, Liberia and French Guinea decided to get to the table and negotiate on the basis of setting a clear borderline between the northern part of Liberia and French Guinea. Hence, the Franco-Liberian boundary Agreement of 1907 was signed, specifically on September 18, 1907, between Liberia and France, because the territory at that time called Guinea was controlled by France. So when that agreement was signed, there was a clear natural geological boundary. And that boundary still exists even today. It is called the Makona River. It is the Makona River that the current administration of the Guinea Republic is claiming. There is a common principle in international public law called Tawek, the doctrine of Tawek. Unfortunately, we are where we are now. And I think that is a total disrespect and violation of the 1907 agreement, because this same agreement was even revised in 1911 and 1926 because there was similar situation again. There was a joint affirmation between Liberia and Guinea to maintain the Makona River as the borderline. So there should be no conflict here. The borderline is very clear, and it is divided by the Tawek. So if soldiers from Guinea decided to cross over the Tawek and come into the territory of Liberia, I think that is a clear violation of the treaty that was signed between both countries. That is why initially I said there is a need for the ECOWAS, the African Union, to step in to diffuse the prevailing tension, because right now there is tension, even though the situation at the border is calm, but there is still tension because cross-border activities are no longer going on. What I see right now happening, I think the new Guinean president, the former junta leader, seems to have a territorial ambition, probably. I don't want to accuse him of that, but what I observe from my own independent perspective, that is what seems to be happening right now in the region.
Those are very strong observations, Martin. But Evelyn, let me come back to you on this. Given the porous nature of the borders in this region, how are trade, movement, or daily livelihoods being affected by the reported developments? What are you seeing on the ground?
Oftentimes, Liberians do cross from Liberia's side to go into Guinea for commodities like peanut butter, dry pepper, and other, commodities. So when I spoke with correspondents on the ground, other local journalists, all of these activities have quartet. It's impacting the economic flow. It's also impacting even the social interactions of locals in terms of the interaction with between Liberians and Guineans. So on the overall, it's going to also affect income from those who do business. Liberia does have cross-border women who leave from Liberia and go to Guinea to purchase, different types of commodities, even including clothing. But that is not happening. How long this is going to last, how long will things get normal, is one thing that keeps on the mind of Liberians, especially those who are involved with the commercial or trading across the two countries, to see how will this, affect really their incomes, and as well as other, social interactions between the two countries.
And have there been any visible changes in security presence or even patrols on the Liberian side since these tensions were highlighted by ECOWAS?
Yes. Just before today, the Liberian government had a joint security that were deployed there, a handful of officers from the Liberian National Police and the immigration that were deployed on the Liberian side of the border at the time of the gunfire, where allegedly one Liberian was wounded in the process. So yes, there has been security presence, both from the Liberian side and the Guinean side. But for the Liberian side, there was a joint security team that were deployed at the border to Sodoma. From the Guinean side, we're reading all our local dailies as well as social media that the Guinean army chief has also deployed, some huge number of army officers to their side of the border. So from a few conversations I had with colleagues on the ground, they said to us that, well, no one is leaving that side to come on the other side, but you can see they are also fully protected, and the army on that side are also carrying firearms.
So security is visibly tighter and nerves are high. And I just want to bring in Martin, picking up from that security picture. ECOWAS has urged all countries involved to avoid unilateral actions and to immediately de-escalate. What scenarios worry you the most if restraint is not exercised?
Quite frankly, it is worrisome from the context that both security forces from Liberia and Guinea could exchange fire. There could be further escalation leading to displacement of our people. Remember, those are border towns along the common boundary of Makona. So economically, trade could be stalled. The movement of our people in the context of the ECOWAS free movement policy and law could also be jeopardized. The neighborliness between both countries could be undermined. So a lot is at stake, a lot is at risk. And that's why we agree with the position, the common position of the ECOWAS and the African Union for all sides to de-escalate. Because further escalations could lead to something else. The region has been through a lot. We've been through back-to-back civil wars in Sierra Leone, Liberia. We've been through coups in Liberia and Guinea as well. So the region has been continuously destabilized. And citizens of the region are calling for peace, stability, neighborliness, commonality, solidarity, and economic integration. At the point of this call, we are now seeing something else. So I think it's worrisome in many ways, in many dimensions, and we are calling on all sides, especially the Guinean side, to demonstrate leadership and a sense of solidarity. So it's really worrisome for the people of the region, for the both countries, including Sierra Leone, because Sierra Leone has also been drawn into the crisis. In February of this year, Guinean soldiers arrested 16 Sierra Leone officers at the very same Makona border, because the Makona River runs through Guinea and Sierra Leone as well. So this is a very delicate matter. It has geopolitical security implications that must be handled with caution. Only dialogue and de-escalation can lead to peace and stability in the region, and not confrontation.
Martin, given the risks that you've just described, and you've talked about, there needs to be dialogue and de-escalation, do you believe ECOWAS's preventive diplomacy approach, be it fact-finding missions, technical assessments, and even calls for restraints, is enough to cool tensions, or is a different strategy needed altogether?
Quite frankly, I think this is the first step by ECOWAS, to diffuse the prevailing tension. However, more needs to be done along the borderlines of Liberia and Guinea, because this is not the first time. This is not the second time, and this will not be the last time. There is a need for continuous dialogues, not only instantaneous dialogues. We need continuous dialogues between leaders of the both country and people of the both country, because like Evelyn rightly said, right, we are mixed. Right, you have the Gisi in Liberia, you have the Gisi in Sierra Leone. You have the Mandingos in Liberia, you have the Mandingos in Sierra Leone. So to a larger extent, we are intermarried. Considering this cultural context, it is important for our people to sit together and talk about some of these issues, find some genuine and sustainable resolutions that may resolve them once and for all. Because if we don't resolve these issues now, generations to come may encounter similar problems. So it is better for us to remain on the path of dialogue and de-escalation. For me, I think this is the way to go instead of confrontation, aggression, or instability.
Evelyn, let me bring you back in here for a moment, and more specifically on ECOWAS's deployment of a technical mission. How have Liberian authorities and residents responded towards this?
They've welcomed the ECOWAS intervention, and they're even asking for more further dialogue on this matter.
Martin, what realistic and urgent measures are needed to build confidence and resolve tensions between Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone?
Basically, I think both presidents and chiefs of staff need to meet like they are doing today. In Conakry, Guinea, there is an emergency Mano River Union section amongst the full leaders of the region, which is good. And I'm very sure that the presence of ECOWAS, the African Union, and the United Nations will be there. This is the most genuine and practical step to resolving the prevailing situation at the Liberia-Guinean border. We need to promote cross-border peace. People come from Guinea to Liberia. People come from Liberia to Guinea. We need to begin to promote peace and dialogue at that specific border point or border crossing. Because when our people get to know what it means to live together, to coexist, to talk to each other, even when there are issues or disagreements, then they will be able to discuss, even when one group is dissatisfied. So basically, all sides should be willing to embrace peace, dialogue, and de-escalation, because our people in that region have had enough. Lucy, I was a very young man, when the war started in Liberia, 1989. I was born 1989. When the war started in December, and I know what it means to go through a very devastating war. So the experience is terrible. That's why our people keep calling for peace, peace, and peace. And the Guinean side should be willing to accept that the best resolution to any conflict is peace. All of us should be able to talk to each other. We cannot use military confrontation to address matters that can be addressed through dialogue and diplomacy. So I think diplomacy needs to be emphasized more. We need to talk to each other more. When we begin to do that, we will build trust and confidence that will lead to diplomatic neighborliness and friendship and togetherness. And I believe that Liberia has taken the step already because the point is, Guinea is a party to the conflict, right? But the section today, the emergency section today, is being held in Guinea. The Liberian leader is going to Guinea for that section. That demonstrates leadership. He would have said, no, I cannot go Guinea because Guinea is a party to the prevailing conflict. Let's go to Ivory Coast, because there are 3 parties to the conflict here, Lucy: Guinea, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. So why are we having the emergency MRU section in Guinea? So this clearly tells you that Liberia is willing to embrace peace. Liberia is willing to deal with the situation through dialogue and diplomacy, but Guinea must also be willing to do the same. Otherwise, if Guinea is not willing, the question is, how can we achieve peace and stability in the region? We respect his position as president and head of state of the People's Republic of Guinea, but he cannot use his authority to allegedly invade or intrude in another country's territory. That is against international law. And let me state here, from an international law perspective, specifically under Article 51 of the UN Charter, that every country reserves the right to self-defense. If you allegedly institute hostile, aggressive measure in pursuit of claiming illegitimately another country's territory, that country reserves the right to defend itself. That will lead to further escalation or conflict in the region. That's why we are saying, let peace reign. All parties need to draw back and sit a bit, reflect together, build trust together, and begin to talk to each other about the issues at the borderline of Guinea and Liberia.
Right. And Evelyn, let me bring you back in here for a moment. From Liberia's vantage point, how worried are officials about the possibility of the Yenga dispute spilling over into a broader Mana River Basin security issue?
What they're actually trying to do, the government, is also not to panic the citizens. So one thing they keep flagging is that they're doing more diplomatic engagement, but they are very concerned. They're very concerned because of the fact of where Liberia has come from, the 14 years of civil war. But at the same time, they also do not want to create a situation where the government or the state will be seeing that they don't have control of the situation that's happening. That's one of the things that, a lot of people. So even like you listen to the local media here, from the different talk shows, different publications, they are also commending the government for the way in which they are handling the information dissemination, calling on Liberians to be calm, as well as those who live around the border area from Foya, around Sodoma, that they should remain calm, be peaceful. So yeah, they are concerned, but at the same time being cautioning the citizens that they who are around the front line of the border to also take precaution to avoid further conflict.
As we come to a close, I'd like to finish with you, Martin. What lessons can other African countries pick from this? Because we've had other broader conflicts as well. Is Africa learning much?
So far from what I see, I don't think so. I don't think Africa is learning much from its dark past. But a number of lessons could be learned from the Guinea-Liberia territorial tension or situation. Number one, conflict is not the way. Conflict is not the way to any form of resolution. The way is peace. The way is de-escalation. The way is dialogue and diplomacy. So this is a very key lesson to learn because from an economic perspective, Lucy, the economies of both Liberia and Sierra Leone are very small. The sizes of our economies are very small. Allowing conflict to disrupt economic activities is going to increase poverty, is going to increase inequality, is going to displace millions of people in that region. Like Evelyn said, we have a very dark past. We fought war before. There have been multiple coups. So creating such a tension that may lead to a potential conflict is definitely going to disrupt a lot. That's why we are saying, let's focus on dialogue. The pathway is diplomacy. We can find a common ground on the issues that are prevailing between Liberia and Guinea, because we are one people under the Mano River Union Declaration of 1973. The way, again, Lucy, is peace. And I want to emphasize this as an activist in exile. We are calling on all citizens of Guinea, of Liberia, to forge and foster a peaceful environment that promotes geopolitical stability, economic integration, and prosperity for all of our people in the region.
Very well. Thank you, Martin and Evelyn, for your insights.
Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, Lucy.
You heard from Liberian analyst Martin Colley and DW correspondent Evelyn Pade in Monrovia. Amid the rising tensions, ordinary citizens are feeling uneasy, and some have been speaking to DW.
My call to ECOWAS is they have to intervene, because this issue that's happening, it is not from East Africa or North Africa. It is between the same ECOWAS country that is still happening to. So they need to intervene, because any situation that happens to us, they will be affected too. So they need to intervene to the crisis and resolve the situation so that such action will not be repeated, so that Guinean military will not invade our land, so that it will cause fear among our citizens. Right now, our people are living in a terrible situation. The fear is too much.
We don't want war, but we tell God the president is a peaceful man. Other people who left violence, they will send army there to go there, but you don't send army because you're a peaceful man. You went and went there to go see what's happening, and I pray that when you go there, it will be successful. Peace will reign between them and us.
As citizens of Liberia, we thought that the border issue is very concerning, and the two governments should come together to negotiate and see how best that we can find a common ground, and so that peace, the team they put in place, to conduct the peace, so that these things will be amicably, resolved. But other than that, if the two countries come together to say, oh, there's a violence, trust me, Liberians are ready. We got men that have been deposited. People are all over the community that really want to defend this country. So we beg Guinea, they should find place for them to hammer out this issue.
Liberian President Joseph Boakai and Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio have already held talks with Guinea's President Doumbouya in hopes of finding a swift resolution. Will this renewed tension come to an end? We certainly hope so, and we'll be following developments closely. And now we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us on Facebook at DW Africa. Listen on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to our DW Africa YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. This show was co-produced and edited by Eddie Micah Jr. I'm Lucy Riley. Thanks for listening.
DW, made for minds.